Welcome to the Lab to Cart podcast, where we explore the intersection of AI and the future of shopping. Our goal is to educate and inspire listeners about the potential of AI in the e-commerce, retail, and D2C sectors. I'm your host, Jimmy Slagle, and let's not wait and get into the podcast. What is going on, Jess? Thank you so much for being on the podcast. If you wouldn't mind, if you could just give everyone the quick introduction to who you are and what you do.
So I currently run an agency with 5 other people, primarily D2C, performance-based marketing. Used to be at a traditional creative agency. I've done a lot of stuff, like I was on the Martha Stewart show. I've been published by Seth Godin, just a long stuff that you rack up in decades of marketing.
I love it. Yeah. That's why I'm really excited to have you on the show. I think you bring a very wide just breadth of knowledge of this space, and obviously AI has been, at least for the last year or so, what has been on everyone's mind. And so right away, I love to ask this question: when it comes to e-commerce or just even the future of shopping, how do you think AI is going to play out? And maybe an easier way to start is, do you think AI is underrated right now, overrated, or rated properly, based on what you're hearing, seeing, and testing for your own company?
Yeah. So I've always been fascinated with AI. Guess when I used the first AI chatbot? Take a guess. What year?
Ooh, first AI chatbot. I'm going to go 2021.
Close. It was 1991. So Sound Blaster, which is a company you probably don't know, released this AI therapist called Dr. Spatzo, and you could like type in your problems and it would like respond in like this Stephen Hawking type voice or something. But man, I used the hell out of that thing, and it was super fun. And so we get to like this AI revolution, and to be honest, it's like marginally better now. It's not like for people that haven't used this stuff before, it's a mind blowing. But if you take a long enough view, it's sort of marginally better. So in general, I kind of feel that AI. Well, it's not that I kind of feel AI is extremely overhyped and overblown, and that's from someone that uses it a lot and has seen a lot of it. And I do have very particular reasons why that's the case, because I don't want people to like behead me or anything, but happy to get into any of those.
Yeah, I mean, let's dive into it, because this is probably the first time where someone has come on and been more on the side of, AI isn't that good, and maybe it's maybe it's going to be forever. But let's dive into it. Why do you think that AI is overhyped?
Okay, so I'll give you 4 points, and maybe it'd be interesting to hear your counterpoint.
Sure.
So, are you familiar with the Gartner hype cycle?
Yeah.
Where it's like, right. So nothing escapes the Gartner hype cycle. Like everything can be mapped to it. And I remember like 2 years ago, people were losing their mind over NFTs and buying $200,000 monkey pics. And even then I was like, yo, this is dumb. And I was going to be like getting beheaded there. So just having some awareness of where this technology is on that hype cycle is important, especially when there's a lot of VC money that goes into all these companies and funding these companies, and these companies raise money based off hype. Like that's half the deck. And so there's a lot of money that goes into hyping up this whole thing and create this massive narrative so that they can then sort of continue to raise money. And if you've seen the slope between money put into crypto and money put into AI, and it's very much like, it's like that, so it's like 1-to-1. So hype exists. There's people motivated to put it out there. So that's my first point. What would you say?
No, I mean, I think you're right. I think the biggest difference, so one of our advisors is a former head of innovation at PayPal. And back in 2013, he was leading their blockchain department. So well before Bitcoin and even the NFT cycle became super popular. And recently he is kind of like semi-retired, kind of doing his own startup now. But he's very much so into generative AI. And I asked him the question, I'm like, so what is different about AI than blockchain or NFTs. And what he said is you really didn't need he said in 99% of the cases or companies that he saw, you actually didn't need blockchain technology to power them. It was just like the hype word of making it sound cooler than it actually was, but you really didn't need it. Versus AI, a lot of the applications that are built are fundamentally powered by AI. And so, I think I'd say that's the biggest difference between, Web3 and AI is the use cases that are going to be coming out actually need AI to run them
Yep.
and need to be powered by them instead of just having blockchain be the big selling point here. This is more of like,
Right.
okay, this is actually going to solve a problem.
Yeah. So I'm very eager to get to what is it like the the plateau, like after the hype cycle, and then it goes up to the plateau of whatever is actually being used is super useful.
Yeah,
Um,
totally.
but I feel like we're still. I don't know if we're like just over the edge of the hype cycle and starting to come down. That's kind of like what I feel. But yeah.
Yeah, no, and I agree. Funny enough, in my like weekly product investor update, I said I think that the AI cooldown is upon us, which is a good thing because
Mhm.
it's gonna cause people to it's gonna cause the AI applications that actually solve a problem stand out versus the ones that people just wanted to build as a quick flip and sell or do something that's very easy to replicate. And so I think you're right. I think the cooldown is going to be coming, but that's when we're going to see a lot of the call it diamond in the rough startups that actually make it out.
Okay. So my second point is, so I love like blowing people's mind who've never like seen or really used ChatGPT for the first time, and I'll like, you know, write a whole rap song about random topics or something, and it does it quickly. But I feel like once you start to use it, the magic falls away pretty fast, particularly when you get to edge cases and you try and like tailor the prompt to do the certain thing. It's not doing what you want it to do. And so I generally feel, particularly in the creative side, that AI raises the floor of what's possible, particularly for marketers, but it does not raise the ceiling at all. And I have yet to see some like serious, amazing stuff that come from it.
I agree 100% with you. And this is what I tell everyone is like we are not at the point at which AI is raising the ceiling. We're just at the point at which AI is raising the floor. Meaning that, it can probably get you 75% of the way there, but as of today, it's not good enough to ever beat anyone that is solid at their job, which is why
Yep.
like I've been a big proponent of telling people as long as you're good at what you do, AI is not going to replace you. Now,
Yep.
if I went and pulled my friend that's a lawyer and has never done marketing in his life, and I had him write copy on a website or
Right.
ChatGPT write copy for a website, ChatGPT is probably going to beat him because he has no idea what he's doing either. And so I totally agree with you there. I 100% agree.
Okay, well, this isn't going to be interesting if you agree with me on everything. But so let me do a tangent to that last one where, um, particularly in marketing, like if we think about the platforms that people are using, like Facebook, and they have their own algorithm. Uh, I feel like people are choosing creative. They're clicking on stuff based off how good it is. But what AI is really good at is not making stuff that's good creatively, but it does amazing things on the efficiency side. And so like it can write a whole bunch of stuff very quickly. And so where AI is like doing amazing work, unfortunately, is industries where that efficiency is paramount, which is a lot of like spammers, those types of people who need to like generate up 500 friggin' DMs in a day. And so that's where it's like blowing up. But if you're trying to make better Facebook ads, you can make more efficient ones. Absolutely. I can generate 50 or 100 Facebook ads in 2 minutes, but that's not going to move the needle. It's not going to get me a better ROAS.
Yeah, totally. And so funny enough, I mean, not to plug the startup that we're building, but that's exactly what we're trying to do is, the I think it's the debate of is advertising scientific or is advertising more on the creative front? And I think there is a level of both, and it's really interesting to get other people's thoughts on, when we talk to different creative strategists or growth marketers, like what is or what is the formula to have an ad perform well consistently? And a lot of people are going to have different opinions on what it takes to see that. And
Hmm.
in reality, because everyone has their own subjective viewpoint of what is, what makes their ad successful, therefore advertising is more subjective than it should be. And so our whole goal is, hey, how can we help establish, based on what every single e-commerce brand is doing, to help people know what are the more scientific or universal laws that, hey, when this happens, this is going to increase your return on ad spend, or when this happens, this is going to increase your return on ad spend. And it's impossible for a human to be able to figure that out. And so
Right.
I think it's coming. It's just you need a lot of data to be able to pull something like that off. And the advertising world is usually forgotten by the scientific community, meaning a lot of like the researchers out there. So it has been a really fun project for us to work on, to be able to say, can we actually make advertising more scientific than just creative?
Okay. All right. So down to my last one, where so a system can only move as fast as its slowest part, and I feel like when we put AI into tools and stuff like that, the slowest part becomes the user, who now needs to become some prompt master or whatever, or knows how to interface with this whole new way of working. Like it took us forever for society to figure out how to Google stuff, and then that becomes part of the default skills that a generation learns. And so I feel like I see so many apps where like now we have AI. Like an example would be, I don't know, Triple Whale. Are you familiar with them?
Yeah.
So they have some like Ask Willie thing or whatever, and there's a few little like, I'll just call them magic trick type things, and you'd be like, oh, that's cool. But like to be a hardcore user of that, you need to like almost know how it's programmed and how it's going to be response, and you have to like probe everything like that. And so every AI tool needs to be like probed by the user, who has to put in way more effort than they should for a new user of any tool.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. That's AI's last mile that it has to cross, is the ability for someone like, let's just say, copywriting. The
Mhm.
issue is if you don't study copywriting, ChatGPT can give you something, but you have no idea if it's going to perform well or not. You have to trust it to work. So we did an experiment and are doing an experiment to see if AI can launch an e-commerce company. We had it pick the idea, we had it generate all the images on our website, we had it create the copy for us, all of those things. And that has been our biggest struggle, is it can give us an image, or it can give us the hero text, but we don't know if it actually is going to perform well until we have thousands of users coming to the website, to then
Mhm.
which we can see the conversion rate. And our conversion rate on the site's like 0.16% right now. And it's
Yeah.
because I don't come from necessarily like the copywriting or conversion rate optimization world. So I don't know if what AI is giving me is actually going to perform well or not. And so, yeah, I agree. That is AI's last mile that it has to figure out how to cross. And if it doesn't, I really don't think it's going to be as revolutionary as what people
Well,
hope it can be.
I think that's a problem that will be naturally solved with time. As like my kids, my daughter's 12, she will grow up using AI and coming up with prompts, and she'll be a master by the time she's 22 or whatever. But the people now who are like whose boss is like, here's this AI tool, learn to use it or whatever. It's just very difficult for them to get to maximize this particular tool if it's just interfacing with like a prompt.
Yeah.
And I see people online who are like, get a degree in making prompts, and it's like, well, now I have to like get a degree into how to use this tool. I feel like we're going backwards at that point.
I agree. I agree. I mean, I think again, that's going to be the best opportunities are, how can you build a tool where no matter what your background in that space is. So let's just say you wanted to create a tool that builds or creates video ads for you. If you can build them in a way that maximizes a specific metric like click-through rate or return on ad spend or any of these, that is going to be the most powerful tool available, because you don't have to know exactly if what it's making is effective, you can trust it because it's been trained on all this data specifically for that.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, I mean that the issue is my dad couldn't just go into ChatGPT, know exactly how to use it, and trust everything that it tells him.
Yep.
Yeah. So another question I have for you too is
Yeah.
like, how do you find AI tools that exist? Assuming that a lot of people that listen to this podcast are marketers, growth marketers in the e-commerce or just future of shopping world. How do you stay up to date with like what is out there? And then do you go through and test them out, or do you just kind of see the comments, or how do you kind of vet if you are going to use a tool or not?
Yeah. So there's a few core tools that I use, which is ChatGPT from OpenAI, and then Midjourney as well. And then I'm on a few different like newsletters or whatever, but I always need to recognize like, is this just a skin on ChatGPT? Because that's like takes out 80% of tools these days, and if it is what are the prompts that are built in there, and I'll just take them, you know. Um, so and then the other thing as like a digital, I used to be like a digital strategy director and run digital departments. In that particular role, for some reason you have like every tech vendor in your inbox trying to pitch you something, and I know that a commitment to use a tool is like, man, you have to, in order to get value, not even get value, but like understand if it is something that you can get value out of in the future, you have to put like hours into it, And so I am very hesitant to use new tools unless I see other people using them, talking about them, or if I see something and I'm like, damn, this is going to be some hot shit. I need to get into it and figure it out.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. I love that. I think that's a good approach. Are there outside of ChatGPT, are there any AI tools, and it's totally fine if you don't have any off the top of your head, but are there any AI tools that you have tried? I mean, I know like hyper personalization of landing pages, so like what Rebuy or Adaptive are doing. Have you tried any of those? I know you're more on just the creative strategist side of things, but are there any tools that you have found? I know or Ad Creative AI is another popular one. Like, are there any others that you have found to be helpful, or is ChatGPT really the best one for now? And
So a lot of times I just don't believe in them.
mm,
Um, I don't believe in the claims that marketers use to sell stuff. I've been hearing the same claims for forever. So I just generally don't believe in it. The tools I use most, yes, ChatGPT and in Midjourney to make creative. I also use ChatGPT within Notion because it allows you to get around certain character restraints. Like I'll if I'm like researching like a new client or something, I will take all of like 1,000 reviews and put them into Notion, and then query ChatGPT for certain things because there's like a 5,000 character limit on standard ChatGPT or something like that. Um, so that's mainly how I use it. We use a ChatGPT assistant called Albus within Slack
oh, sure.
as well, and so I love querying like our own knowledge databases as well. So
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's really interesting. I mean, so what tools do you wish existed today that would really help your agency out, that you think could be coming soon, just so people can be aware of like, okay, maybe this is something I should keep my eyes on.
that's interesting. So personalization within email, I think would be stellar. I haven't seen it. Maybe I haven't been paying attention, but that's another case where it's like I know personal email has a lot of data. All those profiles have a lot of data attached to it. I know personalized stuff within email. It's not something that anyone can do manually. The best you can do is carve out like 5 segments and then try to do something with that. But like on an email per email basis, would be amazing. Have you seen
Yeah.
anything like that?
I haven't seen anything from like a hyper personalization from an email perspective, and I think it's mainly because there's no way to truly like use AI to generate emails. It's still pretty drag and drop to build out the designs and the templates
Right.
and
It's Yeah, it's got to work with. Unfortunately, it does have to work with the platforms. This is why, like, any tech that's like built on top of Facebook or Meta, I automatically don't believe, because that's just not the way Meta works. Like, Meta is like it's a black box, and I can't, even if I could generate 50,000 ads with all kinds of personalization, I know that I'm going to get the best performance out of one ad that has the most data attached to it. And unfortunately, it's got one version of the copy or whatever. So I can't even version that, even if I wanted to, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly, exactly. So, I mean, that's another one that I still think AI has to figure out how to be able to cross. And the issue is that in a certain sense, it is multimodal, meaning that it has to be able to create images and it has to analyze text and be able to combine both of those things together to make sense. Which AI is still pretty one-dimensional, meaning that ChatGPT can create text, but it can't create images. It can't yet.
Right.
It can't analyze images. And so that's going to be the next combination, is like, can it be able to do both? Which is where I think that hyper personalization of email could come in.
Yep.
Another question that I have for you too,
Yeah.
a lot of people are concerned about AI taking their job, and just how it's going to look in the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years. What advice do you have for people around that topic, and is it something they should be worried about? And what can they maybe do to try to avoid that if you think that AI could take their job?
Yeah. So any disruptive technology will create a lot of disruption, and absolutely there are people who are going to lose their jobs, and not necessarily like the person's going to lose their job, but the whole company and industry is going to fall apart. Stock photos, I can think, for one. Like, I no longer use stock photo sites. I get exactly what I need from Midjourney. And so if you work at a stock photo site, brush up your resume, and find something else to do, find another industry or whatever. So I think not looking at like your skill set, because I could be doing like customer service at stock photo site, and I can do customer service in freaking healthcare, and my job's safe, you know? So I think about what industries are going to get totally smashed. And if you're in one of those industries, find something else.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really good. What about specific roles? Do you think that, for example, customer service, do you think AI could eventually get to the point at which it automates that, or even some levels of just the mundane tasks, like, ChatGPT, you can now upload files, so you could upload the performance data of all the different Facebook campaigns that you guys are running and say, hey, just show me or it can analyze it in some way, shape, or form. Show me the similarities between the best performing ads and the people that purchase off of them. So walk me through like specific roles that you think people should start to figure out, okay, what can I do to make sure that I stay ahead of the curve?
Yeah. So there's certainly industries where it's going to take a bite of, but not kill. Customer service is one of them, where it's going to get very good, and maybe you don't need that huge call center in Malaysia, but like, you need some expert customer service people for when the prompts fall apart and people can't get what they want. You're never going to be able to 100% those types of things, whatsoever. Um, and so like, and also in terms of like the reporting and stuff, like, I feel like AI is going to do a great job of doing that stuff where you're not going to like this, but where the reporting doesn't really matter. And there's a lot of industries in the organization where it's like, some guy just needs a report, and it is what it is, and it's whatever. AI can create it, or you can export it for some PDF, whatever. But if like the reporting matters, where you need to like use every ounce of intelligence you have to figure out what's going on here, you can probably use AI to get closer there. But that role is AI is not going to take over that role. The boss is not going to just generate a report, and AI is going to give him something that has all the contextual awareness of, what the boss is looking for.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, no, I think that's true. I think it is going to be something where there's something about human conversation that there's so many different cues that happen, and I think it's probably why, Siri or Amazon Alexa or these other true voice platforms haven't been able to keep up with like what ChatGPT is able to say because there's so many layers to how humans interact and talk to each other that
Right.
is difficult for a voice system to be able to pick up.
Right. And so it goes back to the human being the slowest part as well, because my dad used to say, like, think about the average, how dumb the average American is.
Yeah.
Now imagine like half the people are dumber than that person, you know? So it's like, in order to interface with people, even like the boss, like it's the boss needs to do minimal amount of work. And so you kind of need a human to dumb it down or whatever, know what the boss is like looking for. And so an AI is not there yet.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. I mean, so I live in Fargo, North Dakota, and it's a very well-known fact that Fargo's usually like 10 years behind the curve on a lot of technologies and all
Right.
that. And Jess, as a creative strategist, you would love to see the local commercials that get run in Fargo, North Dakota, and I can promise you they are
Sure.
not thinking about AI anytime soon.
Right. Right.
Um, well, sweet man. Last question I love to ask is just, do you have, I guess, any advice, or just kind of like your one belief around AI or anything of the future of shopping that you think people should be aware of, or just kind of that, you know, I don't know, one liner or belief that you hold in this space that you think more people should know about?
Um, so maybe I'll speak to there's probably not AI haters listening to this pod, but if there are people that are like worried, or scared or whatever, my only advice is to use the tool. Like, put it through its paces. You will see how dumb it is, how not smart it is, where the limitations are. And then once you know where the limitations are, if you can change your skill set to be above those limitations, you're going to be fine for the next couple of versions, I guess.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. That's a good last point to end on. Well, Jess, thank you so much for coming on the show. Really appreciate it. It was a fun conversation, and I'm glad that you could come on and just share your thoughts. But appreciate it, man.
Anytime, Jimmy.
All right, thank you.